Welcome to my channel. Try to hear the latest story.
She rang me at 3 in the morning. My card just got declined at the club. They won't let us leave unless someone sends $2,000 right now. I muttered, "Then ring your father," switched my phone off, rolled over, and went straight back to sleep. The next call I received was from the Miami Beach Police Department. Let me lay this out quickly because the whole thing is wild, and there's a mountain of context. I'm 30, male, and until very recently I was engaged to Tiffany, 27, for the past 8 months. We never moved in together. I insisted on waiting to confirm we were truly compatible before committing to a lease together. Turns out that caution saved my life. She still lived in a flat with 2 roommates, roughly 20 minutes from my house. A bit about Tiffany. She grew up wealthy, but her parents completely cut her off financially 2 years ago for reasons she always kept hazy. She'd say they were overbearing and couldn't accept her need for independence. She works in marketing, pulling in maybe $40K a year, yet she lives like someone earning $250,000, always immaculate, designer handbags, dinners at places with $300 bottles of wine. You know the vibe. For months we'd been clashing over finances. She believed it was a boyfriend's duty to cover every dinner, every outing, every random expense. I'm not broke. I'm a commercial HVAC technician and earn a solid living, but I made it crystal clear from the start. I'm not bankrolling a champagne lifestyle on a craft beer budget. Things escalated when her friend circle got involved. She has this tight-knit group of 4 college girlfriends who all married extremely wealthy men. These women do nothing but shop, brunch, and flex on Instagram from Michelin-starred restaurants and private jets. They constantly dragged Tiffany into their world. Weekend getaways to Napa or Vegas that cost thousands each, and mocked her whenever she tried to live within her means. They'd sneer that it was sad. She actually had to work a job. I told her repeatedly that these weren't friends. Real friends don't shame you into debt just to protect their own social ranking. But Tiffany was addicted to the status, even if it meant drowning in credit card bills. 3 weeks ago, one of them, Madison, got engaged to an investment banker. They threw an engagement party at a ridiculously luxurious downtown venue. Open bar, 5-course menu, the works. The kind of night that costs more than a decent used car. That party I watched grown women compete over whose gown was priciest, whose ring was biggest, whose honeymoon would be the most exclusive. It was nauseating. Tiffany spent the entire evening miserable because she'd borrowed a dress from a roommate and felt frumpy next to their couture. She kept whispering how lucky Madison was to have a man who could give her that life. That night I realized she wasn't seeing me as a partner. She was sizing up my paycheck against her friends' husbands. I wasn't a fiancé to her. I was a potential lifestyle upgrade or downgrade. The following week she started dropping hints about wanting a larger diamond. The ring I gave her was a respectable 1 carat from Qley's, within the budget we had discussed. But apparently it wasn't Instagram-worthy next to Madison's 3-carat Tiffany set rock that probably retailed for $50,000. I shut that conversation down fast. I reminded her we had agreed on finances long before the proposal. If she wanted to play in the trust fund league, she should have chosen a different player. She got defensive, claimed she just wanted to feel special like any bride, but I'd overheard her on the phone trashing my cheap ring to her friends and saying she was embarrassed to post it. 2 weeks ago she informed me, didn't ask, informed me, that she and the girls had already begun planning her bachelorette in Miami. The estimated cost was $3,000 per person for flights, hotel, meals, clubs. When I asked where on earth that money was coming from, she casually said her friends were splitting most of it and she expected me to gift her share and her sisters as an engagement present. $6,000 total. That I laughed in her face and said absolutely not. $6,000 for 4 days of partying while we were supposedly saving for a wedding? No chance. I told her if Miami was that important, she could fund it herself. The argument that followed was explosive. She called me controlling, unsupportive, accused me of making her look poor in front of her friends. I reminded her we had discussed financial compatibility before I ever got down on one knee. I wasn't going to bankrupt myself to keep up with spoiled heiresses that I gave her an ultimatum. The Miami trip or the engagement. Pick one. That she stormed out, stayed at Charlotte's for 3 days, and apparently they schemed together. When she returned, she announced triumphantly that her dad had agreed to cover the whole weekend if she promised to be more responsible in future. I was skeptical. She'd sworn her parents were done funding her, but she insisted they were willing to help with special occasions. The trip was booked for the previous weekend, Thursday to Sunday, at a 5-star oceanfront resort in South Beach. I wasn't happy, but if her father was truly paying, it wasn't coming out of my pocket, so I kept quiet. Thursday morning she left for the airport dragging 2 massive suitcases and a carry-on overflowing with makeup and jewelry, more excited than I'd seen her in ages. Her Instagram stories immediately started. Mimosas at the gate, first-class seats, which were definitely not part of the original budget plan. Red flags popped up instantly. Thursday night, dinner at a restaurant where sides started at $60. Friday, rented cabanas that cost $500 a day. Saturday, shopping bags from Gucci, Balenciaga, places I knew she couldn't afford on her salary. I stayed silent because, technically, it wasn't my money. Yet something felt seriously wrong. Either her dad had suddenly become Father Christmas, or she was racking up debt that would eventually land in my lap once we were married. Friday midnight, I got a drunk text. A photo of the group at a rooftop club surrounded by towers of champagne and sparklers. Bottle service that easily runs 5 figures. Saturday was more of the same. Luxury lunches, a private yacht for the day, more designer shopping. Her social media looked like a billionaire's highlight reel. Then, Saturday night bleeding into Sunday morning, my phone started blowing up while I slept. Missed calls, frantic texts I never saw because it was on silent. At 3:17 a.m. it rang. Tiffany. Over thumping bass she screamed, "Babe, thank God. My card got declined. We have an $8,000 tab and security took our IDs. They're threatening to call the cops if we don't pay right now. Please send $2,000 immediately." I bolted upright. I thought your dad paid for everything? He covered the hotel and flights, but we went over budget and my cards are maxed and the girls don't have cash. Please, you have to help. That's when the penny dropped. There was no money from her dad. The entire weekend, every dinner, every shopping bag, every bottle of Dom Perignon had been charged to credit cards she couldn't pay. How much is the actual tab? I asked. 8,000, but they'll take 6 cash tonight. Please, I'm scared. 8 grand in one night on liquor. Unreal. But what floored me was her automatic assumption that I'd wire thousands of dollars at 3 a.m. to rescue her from consequences she created. Call your dad? I said. I can't keep asking him. Just send whatever you can and I'll sort the rest later. You lied. Your dad isn't paying for any of this, is he? Silence, then sobbing. Please don't leave me in this mess. We can fix everything tomorrow. Call your dad, I repeated. If he's loaded enough to fund the lifestyle you want, he can get you out of jail. I'm not your personal bailout service. You're my fiancée. When someone you love is in trouble, you help them. When someone you claim to love lies repeatedly about money and hides tens of thousands in debt, you realize who they really are. Sort it yourself. I hung up, powered the phone completely off, and went back to be 8:09 a.m. when I switched it on. I had dozens of missed calls and increasingly desperate messages. Then at 11 a.m. a Miami number I didn't recognize. Is this Jacob Morrison? This is Sergeant Rodriguez, Miami Beach PD. We have your fiancée Tiffany Walsh in custody. She requested we contact you. My stomach dropped. What happened? Theft of services and disorderly conduct. She and 3 others ran up a large unpaid tab at a nightclub. When officers arrived, your fiancée became combative during arrest. Is she hurt? She's fine. She'll be released today if bail is posted, 1,000 cash or bond. The club is still seeking over 8,000 in restitution. Officer, I'm not in Florida and I won't be paying bail or any part of that bill. She needs to call her family. Long pause. Sir, she was adamant you would handle it. I'm sure she was. She made her choices. I spent the next hours fielding furious calls from her friends. Charlotte screaming that I abandoned my fiancé. Madison calling me abusive. Sarah saying I was destroying their friend group. I told each of them the same thing. If they're such great friends with all that inherited money, they can rescue her. Around 3 p.m. I got a call from Tiffany's father, a man I'd met exactly twice. He was at the airport, boarding a flight to Miami. We need to talk, he said coldly. About what? About my daughter spending the night in jail because her future husband wouldn't help her in a crisis. I nearly laughed. A crisis she manufactured by lying about having money for a trip she couldn't afford. She made a mistake. A $60,000 mistake she planned to hide until after the wedding. Did you know she told me you were paying for Miami? Heavy sigh. We cut Tiffany off over 2 years ago. She blew through her trust fund in 6 months and expected endless refills. Jacob, she currently owes roughly $40,000 on cards, probably closer to $60,000 after this weekend. I'm flying down to post bail because she's my daughter, but you deserve to know what you almost married into. After that call, I sat in silence, replaying every expensive date she'd forgotten her wallet for, every purchase that wasn't a sale, every future plan that quietly assumed my income would absorb her spending. That evening, Tiffany called from the airport, sobbing, apologizing, promising therapy, financial counseling. Anything if I'd just take her back. I let her beg for 5 minutes, then said, "We're done. You can't end an engagement over money. I'm ending it because you value appearances and your toxic friends more than honesty with the man you claim to love. You were willing to trap me with tens of thousands in secret debt. That's not a mistake, that's betrayal." She pleaded, bargained, promised the moon. I told her not to contact me again, blocked her, and started packing every item she'd ever left at my place into a box. The next morning, she showed up at my door still wearing the clothes from the police station, eyes swollen. "Please don't throw us away over one bad weekend. I love you." I handed her the box. "I don't love who you actually are. The woman I proposed to was honest and responsible. You've been performing a role while hiding a financial disaster you intended to dump on me after vows. Goodbye." She stood on my porch crying and begging, but I shut the door. Update: a week later, she's apparently in credit counseling and trying to reach me through mutual friends to prove she's changed. Her friends are still blasting me online, calling me heartless. Her roommate says the real debt is closer to $70,000 now. Her dad hired a lawyer to negotiate the club bill down, but she still owes about $12,000 just from that weekend. She lost her job for no-call/no-show after the trip, moved back home with her parents because she can't make rent, and her family is split. Half furious at me, half relieved I'm not the one inheriting the mess. I'm focusing on my own life and career, Already shopping for a house now that I'm not tying my finances to a sinking ship. I dodged a missile the size of a skyscraper. If you're reading this and seeing red flags around money and entitlement, trust them. Those traits don't improve after marriage. They get legally locked in and 10 times harder to escape. 3 months ago, I thought I was planning a wedding. Now I'm planning a future free of someone else's reckless decisions dragging me under. Sometimes the most painful endings are the greatest blessings in disguise.